We're rolling now.
Take one for alien abduction, alien autopsy. Take one. Marker. Check.
Hello, dig for bones.
I don't think anyone knows that I'm the one cut off your toes and put them in the drawer of the sock.
Hello, and welcome to the Least Haunted Podcast, a place where science, skepticism, humor, and anthropology meet to discuss all things spooky, haunting, supernatural, and sometimes just the plain ridiculous. I'm your host, Cody Franks, and joining me as almost always is an arguably amazing American amalgamation of awesome orally appealing abilities and algorithmically appeasing aptitudes and altruistic attitudes.
Garth.
Garth!
Hi, Cody. How's it going?
Hey, good. How you doing?
I'm doing good. So this is a very special episode. We're doing some testing here, so most likely you'll be seeing this live, unless we decide. Well, not live, but like as live as we're ever gonna be. But yeah, we're doing a video version of this.
Yes, this is our second. Well, we did the Hicks Road episode.
We did the Hicks Road, and then we did the cereal.
Yeah.
Yes.
But this is
the cereal tasting episode.
Like third attempt. We did film something once before and it was unusable.
That's actually, I consider this the lost episode. I feel like I would like to edit the very poorly filmed. It's us making
we built a theremin.
We built a theremin with like this little kid kit. Anyway, it's like a very weird 20-minute lost episode. Mm-hmm. That will surface one day.
Yes.
Anyway. Any spooky checks?
I do actually have a spooky check.
Excellent.
So a week ago, so last Saturday, I was with Mule Man Jared, and we were working on the theme song for my new podcast, Ask Cody Cricket, and we were recording it in my family's big barn. And it was a somewhat rainy day, and we were inside recording, and all of a sudden we hear from like just outside the door, like this rattling sound, but it was like and it sped up. It was like and
rat tail.
No, it sounded like a little like a two-stroke engine, right?
Was it that loud?
Yes.
Whoa.
And it was like, and it sounded like it was passing by the thing. So him and I look at each other, put our equipment down, we run outside, and the yard is empty. And so we like are looking at her like, what the hell was that? We go back inside, start recording again. A few minutes later, like an engine revving, and then it sounds like it's going like around the barn and down the driveway. So again, go outside, and Jared's like, dude, he even says, he looked at me in the eyes like, spooky check. He's like, you got a ghost car, a ghost something. I'm like, no, I don't. And so a third time it happens, and we're quick enough to get outside, and I see that there is just a little bit of a breeze blowing, and there is a piece of black plastic that was on the roof, but it had like been tacked down, but there was just one part of it that was just the perfect place to oscillate when the breeze hit it. And there you go. So
I can see that happening. I've seen similar things. Yeah, good one. That's a very good one. I don't have any myself. Any spooky checks anyway.
I call it the thing what flapped in the yard. The tale of the thing what flapped in the yard. Gather around, children, to hear about a piece of plastic in the wind. Some say it was the most beautiful thing they'd ever seen. I said it was bullshit. Much like our topic today. Some said it was the incredible thing and beautiful thing they'd ever seen, and I say it was complete bullshit.
So this is actually something we've been talking about doing for a while. I remember this was huge. By the way, we're doing an episode, if you couldn't tell from the name of the episode. We're doing the alien abduction.
No.
I keep saying that.
Yeah, there's no abduction at all in this.
The alien autopsy.
The alien autopsy video.
Where we abducted an alien that was dead and then autopsied it. I used to say autopsy, but it's autopsy.
An autopsy technically doesn't apply to this situation. An autopsy is specifically, I think, a human being. If it's anything non-human, it is a necropsy. And since this may or may not be an alien, we don't know if it's human, this is an alien necropsy, but it doesn't have that fun alliteration, you know?
That's probably what it is. Well, and even if it is a fake and was like a mannequin, would that still be a necropsy?
No, then it's just pretend.
Yeah, I guess so. I was gonna say anything that's not a human, something made of silicon.
Yeah, well,
would
also
count.
that implies that it was something once alive. Necrotic,
yeah,
necro,
okay.
yeah, dead. So, a bit of a story time, but I don't know if it's his official story time. It's in the form of a story. Anyway, on the night of Monday, August 28th, 1995, a primetime special aired on the Fox network in the United States. You killed him.
Oh, I've got to do an autopsy. I was gonna say abduction again. He's alive.
The special was hosted by none other than Commander William Riker himself, Jonathan Frakes. Yeah. And it purported to reveal footage of a possibly actual, real alien. They say autopsy, but again, I'm saying necropsy. However, as the name of the show, Alien Autopsy. Fact or fiction.
Now, this was a show called Fact or Fiction, right?
No, that came later.
Oh, is this like the premiere and this is the
like
spin-off?
Yes.
I didn't realize that. Okay.
Well, okay,
got
so
it.
yeah, what you're alluding to is, and most of our viewers might be aware of this only as the internet meme, is that you can find supercuts
of Riker going, fooled you.
Wrong.
Nope.
Didn't happen.
We made it up. We made this one up. It's a made-up tale. It's a total fabrication. It never happened. Not this time. It never happened. It's false. It never happened. It's a fake. It's fiction. It's an urban legend that never happened.
So it's because he hosted a show that was called Fact or Fiction, where they would then present like dramatized scenes in short sketches of supposedly true paranormal events, and then it was up to the viewer to decide, like a quiz, and at the end he would tell you which were true and which were wrong. Mm-hmm. But in this case, it was Alien Autopsy, Fact or Fiction, and the name implied that it was up to the audience to decide for themselves if the story and footage were real. This is for legal liability reasons.
That's a smart way to frame it. So every one of them could be fiction, and you're not actually lying to the audience.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, it's like that old thing from long ago, like you should see it. You know,
are you talking
about
the Cardiff Giant?
Yeah. See it for yourself.
Cardiff Giant.
Yeah. Remember this episode, everybody?
They might be.
That
hoaxes.
was seeing is believing.
Yes.
Right. So it's sort of that.
Yeah.
kind
So
of
it's
a
up
thing.
to you. Okay. So the story behind the footage, as presented in the special, as well as the real story behind the footage, are both incredible, but for different reasons.
Okay.
On the one hand, there's a story about secret government cover-ups and proof of extraterrestrial life. And on the other hand is the story of some incredibly lucky and crafty hoaxers.
Okay.
So now I present for you the story of Alien Autopsy, Fact or Fiction. Now we have the story time within a story time within a story time. It's all stories all the way down, Garth.
I didn't do any sound effects for this one. There we go. Okay, here. I'll do it live on camera. Story time within a story time.
I got to do that with a Garth. That was great. Dream come true. So, in 1995, Ray Santilli was a moderately successful, if albeit small-scale, film and music producer living in London, England. At 37 years old, he had had a varied career in both music and film. He started out as a studio musician, a record producer, and music distributor back in 1974. In 1981, he produced an album that contained a version of the Chicken Dance song. You know, that was a huge hit.
That was like a polka. Is that a traditional song?
No,
I've
it was written in the
wondered.
1950s, it turns out.
Oh,
And so
it was one of those songs from the 50s, those silly songs.
Yeah, the
Okay.
big polka craze of the 1950s.
Right.
And then so in 1991, he
You never
produces...
saw? Have you seen the Weird Al movie?
Yeah.
Oh, you did? Yeah,
Yeah.
where everybody there's like a polka,
Yeah.
there's polka parties. All right. Anyway, very good movie. Sorry, I derailed your story. Continue.
Anyway, he produces an album that has a version of that on it that was got some radio play in England. And then in 1985, he founded Music Broadcasting Services Limited, a small music licensing and production company that secured the exclusive UK distribution rights to the entire Walt Disney song back catalog.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
So the point that I'm going to get here is he's small scale, but the guy has some means and some money because he's got the exclusive
The Disney back catalog is no small thing. Yeah.
and even in 1981. So yeah, then he, with that company, he produced a charity single featuring Boy George. in 1987 that raised money to refurbish the Great Ormond Street Hospital in London.
Oh, nice.
That's nice.
Yeah.
And then in 91, he forms another company. This is the Merlin Group, which specialized in recording older hits with the original artists. You loved them when they were young. Now hear them slightly older doing the exact same thing.
How much older are we talking?
I don't know. I think it varied by artist.
Okay.
And
Here they are 5 years later. It's like,
Yeah.
well, that's not much. Okay.
And then by 1995, he was the owner and founder of Orbital Media Limited, which produced documentaries and films for television. My point here is that he has some experience in producing documentaries and films for television. Now, up to here, these are all facts that you could learn from Wikipedia and his official bios, and these are verifiable. But this is where the story and the timeline is going to do a little split. So Ray Santilli claims that sometime in 93, while looking for footage that he could use in future productions, he was traveling around the United States and looking for stock footage and any old footage people had from like home movies. You know, it's a Pruder film type shit.
So he's just collecting footage.
He's out in the hunt. Yeah, he's on the prowl.
I didn't know that was a thing people did. Interesting.
I mean, they have to get the footage somewhere.
I guess so. Yeah.
And while doing this, during this trip, he made contact with a retired Air Corps combat cameraman, possibly living in Florida. The cameraman claimed to have some footage that Ray would find very interesting. Now, the cameraman's story and footage form the basis of, as you guessed it, Alien Autopsy,
Yes.
fact or fiction.
That was my guess.
Yeah. And his story was this. He claimed that he was a former combat cameraman in the U.S. Air Corps, which was part of the Army at the time. Remember, Jimmy Stewart hadn't started the Air Force yet. See episode 6, It's an Abominable Life, to learn about that. Anyway, one night in 1947, this cameraman, who was still enlisted, was woken up in the middle of the night abruptly and flown to an air base that he claimed he had never heard of before, where he was instructed to film the autopsy of the victim of an aircraft crash. One guess where this base was?
Some sort of area, probably in the 50s.
Well, that one didn't exist yet.
Oh.
That was made in...
That's my only guess.
Oh, no, Area 51 was allegedly constructed as a direct result of the Roswell UFO crash. He was taken to Roswell, New Mexico.
Oh, yeah, that's what I meant. Yes.
We'll fix it in post.
I didn't know that. I thought Area 51 was around already,
Nope.
and then they just made, something crashed in Roswell, bring it to Area 51.
I believe it's that they we've got
Interesting.
all this UFO stuff going on. So at least that's the story I always heard.
Okay.
So let's talk briefly about the Roswell crash. But we're not going to get too in depth because
We'll do a whole episode
Yeah,
on
there's a whole
Roswell.
episode. We have an expert.
Oh, yeah.
to bring in on that one. But supposedly, July 5th, 1947, there was a crash of an extraterrestrial aircraft in Roswell, New Mexico. It's one of the most famous UFO / alien incidents in history, and it's the incident that launched a million conspiracy nuts. And like I said, we'll save that for later. So back to Ray Santilli. This person has either shown him or at least told him about the existence of the film. This gets kind of hazy because there are a lot of different versions being passed around, and you hear it's like trying to get to the truth on this is really hard. It's kind of a Rashomon because you have people telling different versions of stories.
Well, and they're probably telling the story they heard from other people,
Yeah.
so you might only have one or two sources, but it's a lot of people all repeating
and
each
it
other.
gets even more muddled later. Why is that the camera blinking?
I was doing that before. That's
Okay.
normal.
All right. Yeah, it gets muddled because you end up with a Hollywood version of events as well. So anyway, so he shows him or tells him about this footage, although at some point he does see it and he's intrigued and interested and he wants to buy it. However, the seller requests a substantial sum for the film. It's undisclosed how much he paid for this, just that it was a lot of money.
Okay.
It took Ray a full 2 years to haggle and negotiate and secure the funds to buy this film, but he eventually does.
Okay.
Okay. Now, one quick question is, why did this cameraman allegedly still have footage of the alien autopsy?
Right. I mean, I would think if it's a military thing
Yeah.
and you had a military cameraman, it's not like he's taking the 8mm film stock, like the reel-to-reel home with him every day.
But he was. Here's
that
the
doesn't
thing.
seem like that's the way the
No,
military would
so,
do things.
The thing is that with these cameras, the type of camera that was used, do you have that little camera I brought?
Yes, I do.
Something similar to it. Okay. Like magic, it's going to appear in my hand. So the kind of camera that we are talking about is something much like this. This is an 8mm little Keystone Pathfinder. Now this one was made probably sometime in the 50s, actually.
Okay, so it would be a slightly newer model than what was used for Roswell.
And the thing was, these old Army cameras were made cheaply and out of cheap parts. And so the idea was that as you're filming in combat, if you needed to get out of there or something happened, you could take the film and just ditch the camera.
Oh, okay.
And they run by a spring.
You can actually see the reel to reel how it would be. It's like a tape deck. It's right in there.
Yeah, and it runs almost like a wind-up clock. You have the key, and you turn, and there's a trigger somewhere mechanism that will then start the winding down.
This explains a lot because, and we'll be talking about the footage itself, and we'll superimpose it right here for everybody. But I remember seeing it and thinking, this looks way too handheld. I figured, in the 40s, they've got to have a big, bulky camera. That was one of the giveaways to me.
Yeah, but no.
But actually, that would have made sense.
And critics have often criticized the fact that the film seems to go out of focus. They're like, well, they wouldn't be It's like, no. As you can see this, there is a tiny little viewfinder, and so you can't adjust the focus really as much as you're on the go. You were just shooting.
Well, and if the people from the fact or fiction are to be believed,
there it goes.
If the people from the fact or fiction are to be believed, the one they were using actually didn't have a manual focus, so you just had to be 13 inches.
Like I said,
away
this
or
one
something.
does have a manual focus, but this is also probably about 10 years newer or more modern than the one that was used. Also, I think the one that was used was not 8mm, it was 16mm.
Oh, okay.
But still, same principle at play here. So the thing is, though, that the film could have all kinds of issues. Like if the gears didn't line up correctly, it would just start chewing up the film and scraping up the film. And there's also a lot of things that could go wrong in the development process. So most of these guys who were specialized photographers for the military had gone through all the training they could develop the film themselves. And so usually it was just more, I know my equipment, I'll develop it.
This would explain why he's bringing it home with him.
Yes, and then they also they produced copies. So according to his story, he produced multiple copies, and he had one copy still in his possession, and they sent the other ones out to different places, right? And they said, we will contact you to get the other one. Stand by for the next orders. But here's what happened. Old Jimmy Stewart founded the Air Force, and so the Air Corps was separated from the Army, as well as the Office of Secret Surveillance or Secret Intelligence. There was the precursor to the CIA was also split off and created the CIA. So you have the Air Force and the CIA. And
imagine the paperwork involved.
So basically, it was a big bureaucratic fuck up that it was a top secret film. No one was supposed to know about it. Then the people who did know about it all got reassigned, and somewhere through the whole thing, it just got lost. And he said that he tried to call them, but all the contact numbers he had didn't work anymore.
They were all like
scattered to the wind.
disappeared.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
you can't get a hold of them because now they're top secret.
And so he just sat on this film in Florida and just assumed that at some point someone was going to come collect it. And when he got older, when 50 years had passed almost, and he's like, well, my pension sucks. I need to get a little money. I can sell this thing.
They obviously didn't want it.
Also, the big joke is that this mysterious cameraman figured that by selling it to somebody who was not American, he would never hear from it again. Right? But it's like, you don't assume you give them like the greatest piece of found footage ever. You don't think they're going to turn. Anyway, moving on.
I don't know about that.
But that explains why he still supposedly had the film. Now, Santilli claimed that he had sent some of the film itself to Kodak in an effort to try and date it and validate it, and Kodak responded that the film could have been manufactured in either 1927, 1947, or 1967. And these dates were also repeated by an alleged researcher with Kodak Eastman in the television special itself.
I remember seeing that there's like a little triangle symbol, and that indicates some decade 7. Something
Yeah,
like
they
that.
had.
There's
It was the way the film was
code.
produced. Yeah, that they would actually work a physical code into the film stock itself with different shaped grooves that were or holes that were punched along the gear sprocket holes, and so you could look at those and see the right combination of these triangle, square, circle, and that corresponded to a year, and so it gave them those years. Now it's also important to note that in the special they show this guy. He's not actually looking at a real piece of the footage. He's looking at a slide that is a photograph of the film.
So that's not going to have the same
Yeah.
edges or
Yeah.
anything. Sprockets.
But as we'll find out, it actually did. This ends up being, not to spoil too much, but this actually might be my favorite conspiracy story ever when we get to
Whoa,
it.
okay.
Okay, so... Soon, a bidding war starts over the TV rights to this footage because once
This
Ray
is the
gets...
early 90s?
This would be 95.
Okay.
Right? So he found it in 93, but it took him 2 years to secure the
Right,
footage
he was
itself.
trying to make the money and
And now
haggle.
he's starting to tell people and producers through his connections to film TV, hey, I've got something you're really going to want. So there's this bidding war because who wouldn't want footage that was proof of aliens in Roswell? Could you imagine the ratings you could get?
Oh, I could, especially if you do a lot of advertising ahead of time and really get everybody psyched up for it.
So
Could be a TV event.
the rumor is that Fox paid Santilli either between $150,000 to $250,000 for the television rights, and that was just in the U.S. alone. He and his friend and business partner Gary Sheffield. I think it's Sheffield.
Sheffield?
No, it's spelled like shoe, but then
Shoe.
Feld at the end. Sheffield. Shuffled. Anyway, they secured broadcasting deals with many networks globally.
Mm-hmm.
But cleverly, they retained all video rights to the footage.
Good one. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Now, Fox, for their part, wanted some level of culpable deniability over the footage before they aired it, so that's why they added the fact or fiction subtitle onto it. And you'll see it stylistically put in parentheses, right?
Yeah, I think so. It's like alien autopsy, fact
or fiction? Question mark.
It's kind of
Yeah.
at an angle.
Now,
Yeah.
the footage he had was about 17 minutes, but you don't see the full 17 minutes in the fact or fiction special.
You see about
Less than 4. Less than
I was gonna
4.
say 7 minutes, but just repeat it over and over.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the way it's edited together is so reminiscent of the Modern Day History Channel, but it is like the proto that because it came out in 97 or 90?
95.
95. Okay. So, but it's all there.
Well, here's the
the
thing.
the zoom ins, the
Yeah.
fades, everything.
This is kind of into the birth of sensational reality TV in the mid 90s. At this point, Fox Network aired about 60 special presentations
I do remember
in
them
a
happening
single
all the
year.
time.
Yeah, all the time.
And it was always like the TV event of
Now
the
think
year.
about that.
They would add
60 of them in a year. There's only 52 weeks in a year.
so
more than one, on average, more than one.
and yet they were able to make them all seem like this is the event of the season.
Yeah, this is the thing you need to
Amazing.
see. So in the special, though, you can watch it on, right now, it's on, in the US, it's on Pluto TV. You can watch it there. You can see clips of it on YouTube.
I found the whole thing on YouTube, so we'll put a link there too.
Okay.
For the unedited 17-minute.
Oh, no, I'm talking about
Fact or fiction.
Fact
Yeah,
or
no,
fiction.
but that's on Pluto
Okay,
TV.
yeah. So you only see about 4 minutes of it, in which they also pixelate out the creature's genitals.
My favorite part. I was gonna say. I remember.
But they do let you know that it appears to be female.
Right, they did say that, and
But all they really mean is that it has no external sexual characteristics.
yeah.
Yeah. But they pixelate it out anyway because I'll get into that in a second. So in between these little clips, they have interviews they basically retell the entire Roswell, New Mexico story through interviews of people who supposedly were there or are the children of the people involved. And then they also have interviews with experts who give their opinion and weigh in. So now we can talk, I guess, real quickly about describing the footage and what it shows.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, if you're watching this, you're seeing it up superimposed.
Yeah. We'll just have it up on a running loop at this point because now we're getting into the actual footage. But yeah, it's super high res, grainy, black and white, handheld. But there's you can see little props in the background. There's a clock that they dated in the show. Oh, that's a clock.
A
from a long
clock
time
and
ago.
a telephone.
Yeah, there's a telephone. There's a little tray full of instruments, and then there's 2 surgeons?
There's
one?
There's 2 surgeons.
Okay.
In hazmat suits,
And then the
there's cameraman, and then you have a glass window through which another person wearing a surgical mask is watching.
Right, okay. And the cameraman's kind of trying to stay out of the way and just sort of going behind people at weird times, and then you see the alien again, and then it's blurry.
It's very interesting to note, and they point this out in the Fact or Fiction show. You only get to see one side. If it does switch to the other side, it is in extreme close up, and that was I'll explain why that happened. But in that they were like, oh well, no, it's just because the cameraman was trying to stay out of the way of the surgeons. And it's like, no.
I recall seeing a shot where they're going from one side to the other, where you can see the feet, and you actually do see both sides in that.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
A little bit.
Okay, but it's mostly on. All right, if I'm the alien, they're on this side, so that would be to my left.
Yes,
for the most part.
Mm-hmm. So, one of the experts that they talked to was Stan Winston, the special effects wizard behind the Terminator.
That was my
Jurassic
favorite
Park.
part. It was great, and yeah, it shows him and all of his
crew.
Yeah, his crew of like young bodybuilder, like
special effects.
Yeah, 80s kid special effects people, and they're all looking at the footage like, whoa. Yeah, how would we do that? I don't know if we could.
Right.
This is impressive. Boy, I'd hire this guy. If this is fake, it's amazing.
When was this supposed to be?
1947. The question is whether or not we could do this if it weren't real.
The organic quality of the legs and the feet, and all that looks very good.
Point is if we did this, I'd be pretty proud of it.
Yeah.
So the producers were careful to edit his responses and his team's responses to make it seem like they thought it was genuine, because they also kept framing it as, you couldn't have faked this in 1947. But they never asked the question, could you fake this in 1995?
That's interesting. Yeah. They were always framing it like, we'd have a hard time even doing this now. There's no way they could have.
Yeah.
But it was always past tense. But it's like, well, if it's fake and this was made a couple years ago, don't worry about it being 1945.
What materials are out there that will duplicate skin like that? I mean, it's mostly the silicones that we're using now, specially formulated.
That's what I said, exactly.
Silicones, and
they didn't
I don't
have
know
those in 1947.
No, no, they didn't.
They said some of the effects, like peeling the skin off the skull to reveal a wet and bloody mess underneath, were things that they had only recently mastered themselves. And they concluded that whoever created this prop, if it was a prop, could easily get a job working in special effects. More on this later. A medical pathologist gives his 2 cents that whoever performed the autopsy had to have had a lot of experience in the medical field, because they were doing the autopsy exactly how they would have in 1947 if they were autopsying an alien, I guess. That is to say, they used a handsaw to cut open the skull.
Oh,
that was
nowadays they would use a little turkey.
Yeah. But he also points out that the tools they're using all seem to be period correct, as well as the tray that they're putting the tools in.
Yeah, the guy said we don't use trays like that anymore, but back then, yeah, you would have seen that.
Yeah. He gives us his expert opinion that whatever is being dissected in the film, it is obviously not a standard run-of-the-mill human. He lists a few medical conditions that could explain the physical deformities of the corpse, like the large hydrocephalic head. It had extra digits. It had an extra finger and an extra toe, so 6 digits. And that's one that kept kind of holding him up, because he's like, well, I can identify other abnormalities and genetic defects that could cause someone to look like this, but what is the name? I used to know the name for the extra
digitus abundus.
Maybe no,
I made that up.
No, there is a word, because he has 6 fingers like a certain character in Gravity Falls. Spoiler.
I don't think I've seen that one yet.
And there's a name for it.
I'm on episode 5 of season 2.
You got to get with it, man. But yeah, so he lists off of some of these other these conditions that could lead this to actually be a human being. And if that's true, then it would bring us into a whole nother territory of awful if this was actually a human cadaver.
I hope not. Yeah. Well, I have my own opinions on what this probably is, but yeah,
So also, like we mentioned, there were some things, other things like there's a clock on the wall. They were able to identify that it was a clock model that was made in 1945.
There's no obvious anachronisms where there's something that wouldn't have been made yet in the video.
Yeah, everything is almost as if they hand-picked things to put there to lend credibility.
Look at this clock. Look at this telephone.
Yes,
Look at these tools. Yeah.
So, everything that was on there appeared to be from the correct time. So if it was a hoax, spoiler, it is. It was a very, it was very good. Spoiler, it was.
It actually is really fucking scary.
But how did the public react to seeing Commander Riker talking about and sharing footage of a supposed alien? Well, we'll talk about that and more about the true story behind the film. But first, dig for bones.
Boy, it's so hard for me to keep up with the news, what with all the things that I'd like to read and the little time that I have to read them in because I'm doing art all day and I just can't be looking at words. What am I to do?
Yeah, when your hands aren't free to turn pages or scroll the internet and you still want to be up to date on current events and trends, what is a person to do?
I don't know.
I'll tell you what a person is to do.
Oh, good, you know.
Yes, a person is to download Newsly.
Newsly? What's that?
Newsly is a new all-in-one super app available for iOS and Android. What it does is it takes the most trending articles from topics that you choose. You get to choose your own topics and things that you're interested in. Anything from sports to world news, local politics, science, even pop culture.
Whatever you like. That's
Whatever
the point.
you do,
It's tailored. I mean, this is a lot of places do tailored news feeds. Like, that's nothing new. What's cool about this, though, is like, yeah, a robot voice will read you written articles.
So what you do is you choose the things you like to know about, and then Newsly finds those articles, and then it will read them to you using AI, some of the good robots who are still on our side.
Right. And I downloaded this app and I tried a couple articles and it's quite good listening. It doesn't sound like a robot voice. I mean, you can kind of tell a bit, but boy, it's pretty darn good.
But it's still early stages. It's going to get better.
Oh, absolutely.
The robots are learning.
It has podcasts too. We're actually on Newsly.
Yes, we are already on Newsly, as well as podcasts from over 80 different countries, as well as radio stations from different countries. You can listen to radio from other parts of the world and your own.
It's funny, I've fallen out of the whole radio thing for the last few years, but I keep thinking, oh, I should listen to the radio. And yeah, the fact that you can get it from all over the world, like, wow, that might be one of the most interesting features of this for me. But it has a lot of different things to offer different people. So.
And one thing that really jumped out to me, because I really care about equity and keeping things fair for everybody, Newsly was actually started by someone who had specifically people with dyslexia or the vision impaired in mind when designing this app.
It's great.
It's for everybody.
Yeah, it's great. I love it.
And you too can have access to Newsly by going to the link provided in this episode's notes, or if you're quick enough here, newsly.me, and then you get to use the promo code.
Newsly.me? What's the promo code?
Promo code Least Haunted to receive 1 month of free premium subscription.
Nice. Well, in a month, you'll know whether you like it, and I think you will. So check it out.
So once again, go to newsly.me to download the app today and use the promo code Least Haunted. Oh, I gotta get footage of that alien. No one's gonna believe me.
We're back.
Oh, he's gone. No. Okay. All right, so we're back. And the audience's response?
Well, I was thinking we should start off by saying our own responses. You saw this when it came out.
Yes.
Should we do our own now and then the wider world response?
My response, my experience with it comes a little later.
Oh,
after the
okay.
initial thing.
Well, can I tell my story? Because
Yes.
I totally saw it when it came out.
Yeah, tell your story.
So this was 95, so I was born in 87, so I would have been 8.
Mm-hmm.
Like, perfect time for this. I was just getting into aliens and all that kind of thing.
Same year as the Chupacabra.
That's right, huh? That's right. So I remember seeing all the ads for it, and I loved Star Star Trek anyway. It's like, oh, Will Riker's gonna. So I was like hook, line, and sinker. Like I was like riveted, and it's scary.
It is, yeah.
It's. I remember the funniest thing for me was that they censored out the genitals because like it's a horrifying video, and like. They're cutting the head open and like you can see they're peeling the brain, like pulling the brains out. All of that is
they peel like the retina off.
Yeah, they
its
peel the eyeballs out. Oh, that's fine, but you can't show the. I assumed it had a dick. I missed the part where it was apparently a female. But I've seen the unedited version and there's like nothing.
It's a Ken doll.
It's a Ken doll. But yeah, that part was hilarious to me as a kid that they censored that out, and I just remember being freaked out by it, but I still was sort of on the fence as to whether I thought it was real.
Yeah.
Because I asked my parents, and they're like, nah. But I was like, oh, but I want to believe.
Oh, you want to believe.
But
X-Files was huge at the time.
Yeah,
Alien Fever was going nuts.
I think this was like the beginning of me starting to... You kind of like believe something for fun, but don't really believe it.
Yeah.
So I think I started to like differentiate that kind of thing at the age of 8.
Yeah.
That would make perfect sense that that's the age I was. But it's like burned into my brain, this video from this special, and watching it again on Pluto TV, just like I remembered a bunch more than I thought I had watching it.
No, I was really into the whole Roswell thing. I mean, like I've said a few times, the 90s was a huge time for aliens because it was almost the 50th anniversary of the Roswell incident.
X-Files was a huge
X-Files
program.
was huge. We had 3 Star Trek shows that were on almost simultaneously.
Yeah, Deep Space Nine, TNG, and then Voyager.
Yeah.
They overlapped a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Independence Day was in 96, so it's a year away from when this happened. Yeah, just everything was aliens. So... How did the audiences respond? And it was a huge success.
Yes.
The Alien Autopsy, fact or fiction, garnered an 8.1% share of 94.5 million homes in the U.S. with TVs. This is just in the U.S. alone.
8% of people watching TV that night were watching this.
Yes.
Okay.
When it aired. And that works out to 7,654,500 households in the U.S., not counting other nations where they had gotten rights to show it. So Fox, of course, reran the special 2 more times between August and November. And each time it aired, it had even more viewers, maxing out its final showing with, which means people had already seen it and they still were watching again.
I was wondering, did they tweak it each time? Or they're like, with even more?
There was.
Because there must have been some little like, oh, you missed this part.
There was one that was claimed to be uncensored or uncut. And if you think that means they showed you the genitals, no. They just added a few more frames of footage. But that showing had 11...
Alien Autopsy, bigger, longer, and uncut.
11.7 million people watched that. Wow. Now, that... I mean, I didn't see what the relative population was at the time.
What is it now? 300
something million?
Yeah, 350 million. It was probably like 300 million back then. I have no idea.
No idea. But anyway, whether or not the footage was real became a hot button dividing issue amongst believers and skeptics. It was such a special. The TV special was so popular that it was later commented on and made fun of by none other than Special FBI Agent Dana Scully in a 1996 episode of The X-Files.
So within the X-Files universe, this show had come out.
Yes.
On the same network that X-Files is on. Oh.
Yeah. No, I think the joke is that, like, Mulder shows her some footage, and she says, "This is hokier than that special they aired on Fox." So it's like,
it's awesome.
Mulder, this is even hokier than the one they aired on the Fox network. You can't even see what they're operating on.
My recollection of this begins with the ads that would air late at night on TV for you to buy the uncensored 17-minute film. And so,
complete live and uncensored.
But I remember, just seeing this alien's face would always just like, I'd like, I'd like close my eyes until it was over.
Pretty grisly.
Yeah.
It
It just would traumatize me a little bit as a kid. In addition to just being afraid of being abducted by aliens in general, which was a big thing at the time.
It's funny because I was so young then, I was unaware of Roswell and how long ago things were, and I was like, up until we decided to do this episode, I didn't realize it was footage of Roswell. I thought it was some other found footage of a more recent alien
Yeah.
autopsy.
So, as I alluded, not everybody was so convinced, and accusations of fraud began immediately. And then, in 1998, Fox themselves would come out and call it a hoax when they had another special that was Fox World's Greatest Hoaxes, Secrets Finally Revealed, hosted by Lance Henriksen. That's right, motherfucking Bishop from Aliens. You got Commander
No
Riker
way.
the first time, and then all of a sudden here comes the fucking cyborg who's like, no, man.
I was almost hoping that
They would get Brent Spiner.
yeah, I wanted to see
No.
Jonathan Frakes come back and be like, hoaxes. Who would deceive the American
He
public
come back,
like
he comes
this?
like, you thought that was a real autopsy? You were wrong.
Yeah.
Nope, didn't happen.
We fooled you again.
Fool, yeah, got you again.
Not a chance. Not this time. It never happened.
So in that, Fox claimed it was a hoax, but Ray Santilli still would not admit.
Oh, okay.
But then, 2006 happens, and that's when we get the real story. Are you ready for the real story?
I am. I was kind of like, oh, I fucked up because we were watching. Cody was at his place, I was at my place, and we were both watching this on Pluto TV at roughly the same time. I was halfway through it, and I got on my phone and I just looked up alien autopsy on Wikipedia, and then I started reading. I was like, God damn it!
You're not supposed to know
I
any of
shouldn't
this.
have read this yet. Anyway,
It's okay. It goes deeper.
yeah.
So, in 2006, Warner Brothers released a film called Alien Autopsy, starring British comedy duo Declan Donnelly and Ant McPartlin, better known as Deck and Ant. They were in the roles of Ray Santilli and Gary Schofield. It also featured Harry Dean Stanton as the mysterious cameraman, and who was in Alien.
Oh, which
You
one
can't
was,
have
which
it-
one was Harry Dean Stanton?
In the first Alien movie?
Yeah, I don't know
the
the
guy-
actor's names very well.
Oh,
Which character was this?
He was one of the two guys who were like the mechanic dudes.
Does he die early?
I think he dies looking for the cat.
I think I'm
Spoilers. And then he again appeared in the movie Repo Man,
Oh, okay.
another Alien movie. In fact, as we were watching this, I watched this movie today. Allison commented, she's like, can't have an Alien movie without Harry Dean Stanton. There he is. And it also featured Bill Pullman, the president from Independence Day, in it, and he plays a documentarian
Nice.
who's clearly modeled after Michael Moore, and he is trying to get the true story behind the footage. So that's the movie that it's a comedy, and Warner Brothers is releasing this in 2006. So a few days before the premiere of the film, Ray Santilli admitted as part of an interview for a new documentary. He admitted that the footage, as seen in Alien Autopsy, fact or fiction, was in fact fake. But it wasn't completely fake. Asterisk.
Well, do you think he was doing this to try to help the film or not, or neither? Because if he'd said this right before the film came out,
Well, because the film itself...
it's a comedy, right?
The film gives a fictionalized version of the story that he's about to tell. So he kind of got the drop on it to let people know, like, you're going to see this movie and it's going to tell you it's fake, but let me give you some explanation to explain myself.
Well, and it sounds like this is also an opportunity because suddenly it's back in the public
Yeah.
interest because of this movie. This is the perfect time for him to
Well,
try to grab some of that.
Well, him and Gary end up being producers on this Warner Brothers movie.
Oh.
So they already had a say in it.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out his reasoning here, but all right, let's continue.
Okay. So, as Ray explains, and as the Hollywood film also attempts to portray, there really was footage of an autopsy that he bought from a guy who claimed to be there and filmed it. That happened. However, in the 2 years it took him to haggle and negotiate the price, the film stock, which had been opened to show him and then closed again, that oxygenation hit it, and then it was sealed up for another 2 years in Miami, Florida, in hot and humid weather. So by the time he got the film stock in his hands and went to watch it, it had been rendered completely unusable and was just destroyed because it was old celluloid film stock. So it had started to deteriorate.
Okay.
So
So then he fakes it.
he had no choice but to recreate it frame by
no
frame.
choice.
But So he says it wasn't so much a hoax as it was a faithful recreation. Furthermore, he claimed that there are actual frames from the original in it. He just had to fill in the missing pieces of code with frog DNA.
I was about to say, yeah.
Yeah. But he would not say which clips were real.
Oh, no. It turns out this was fake. But really, there was a real one. And this is me doing a version of it.
So
Yeah.
now we know that the film was a hoax, mostly, and was based on real footage. So how was the new footage faked? And that's where we get into what makes this one of my favorite conspiracy things. Is
Okay.
that what you're about to hear is a real fucking conspiracy that worked for a very long time. But it does go to show that any really large conspiracy, the more people who become involved, the more unstable it becomes until everybody has to be in on it, except for you apparently, because there's only one way to keep it secret.
Right. And
Right.
the more people who are keeping it secret, the less likely it'll stay
But
secret.
an example that if you have a small group of people with a certain set of skills and access to certain materials, you can pull off some really cool shit. So
Yeah, even if this wasn't a real alien, which it wasn't, how did they do this? And no one blabbed about it
it's
after
great.
this special.
it's great.
Okay.
So the movie gives you a fictionalized version of this where it really is like everybody that lives in this like neighborhood and all kind of know each other, all like do it as a project. The movie is kind of like, have you seen Be Kind Rewind?
I was about to say, is it like Be Kind Rewind?
It kind of
where
is.
everybody
It really
gets
is.
together and
It
recreates
really
these
is.
movies?
It's sort of like, and everybody who's like lives in this little like flat of houses, they all have a skill they bring to the table. Like one's a butcher and he's like, oh, I got the meat you can use for the corpse. And yeah, and it's actually a really funny movie. But it is very different than the story I'm going to tell you. They take a lot of artistic licenses, including they create a character who never existed, but he's like the best character in the movie, is this crazy Hungarian like gangster who puts up the money to buy the film, but he's like a true believer in aliens, and he steals the entire fucking movie, and he's only in it like a few scenes, and God, is he great. So in 2017, filmmaker Spyros Malaris, who had a background in magic as a magician, he was a member of the Magician's Circle, he stepped forward to fill in some of these gaps in the story. He says he met Ray Santilli in or about 1990 at the Cannes Film Festival. And they had a few interactions and then lost touch and then reconnected. And Ray contacted him and said he wanted help with a project. Now, let me be clear. Spyros Malaris backs up Ray's story. He says there really was an alien autopsy film, which he saw, and it was almost completely degraded. So he told Ray that he could help him fill in the missing gaps and they would remake it.
So he didn't see it when it was first seen, and when it was, he could
pristine.
tell what you were seeing, but he did see the terribly grainy, hard to see
But
version.
yeah, but remember, they said that even in the final film, the recreation, there are a few frames that are real.
Yeah, I wonder how degraded it was supposed to
Right.
have been, but okay.
But so he says like, no, I saw the thing. And so I said, I can help you. I can do this. We can do this. And so here's a quote from an interview he gave. I said, Ray, look, no one else has seen it, right? Why don't I recreate it? And he said, you can't. So I said, I can. I can recreate this and no one will know. He said, but it needs to stand up to all sorts of tests. It needs to stand up to NASA who want to look at it, to Kodak who wants to look at it, to all experts. We've got the Queen's pathologist lined up to look at it. We've got all sorts of people, he said. They have to look at it and it has to pass. And I said, now I'm a magician. So,
I'm in. This is exciting.
So Spyros, he has connections in the film and special effects business. One of those people was John Humphreys, who had won a BAFTA for his work doing the makeup in Max Headroom. He'd also been a long-term special effects technician on Doctor Who.
Okay.
Refer back to Stan Winston. Whoever did this could easily get a job in special effects.
Right.
It's because he did. So Humphreys creates not one, but two alien cadaver props with slight variations between the two of them. This will come up later. According to Humphreys, he achieved the realistic joint action when they moved the arms and legs. He's like, yeah, I just actually went to a butcher and got actual animal limb bones and spliced them in. So those are real joints. That's why it moves so realistically. He's like, yeah, I just covered real bones with latex.
He's Frankensteining it.
Yeah, and then he used the organs he sourced from a butcher, and then now we get into this grand conspiracy.
How did he get the skin on?
Okay, so now we get into the big conspiracy. I will put a link. There is a page that I found. It's an interview with him where he's telling the entire story about like every step of the way. So the reason why all the props are of the period is because he had connections to film props, and so those were all film props that were rentable in the London area. You could just go and rent these from any prop house, right? But
It's so obvious, yeah.
they
okay.
actually spent years prepping for this. He did research. He took trips with an assistant to Roswell and looked at the Alien Museum. They watched interviews of people who claimed to have been there. They read books on it.
Wow.
One of the things that came up was the suits they were in, the suits. He's like, there was only one version of that suit that was actually period accurate that he had seen, and it was in the museum in Roswell, but they also had a picture in a book. And the thing was that it was a like generation 1 radiation suit.
Oh, wow.
So you'll notice that you never see shots of anybody's feet. He never looks below the table. That's because if you did, you would expect to see a hose coming out of their leg, because that's how they pumped air into the suits, right?
Oh, okay.
They recreated these suits. And so he's like,
Wow.
we can't, I don't
We don't want to do the hoses and all
And
that.
so he's like, well, we just won't show the feet then.
Smart.
Right?
Okay.
And so he details in this interview how him and his assistant, they went to, he's like, can you use a sewing machine? And she's like, well, yeah, but I don't have the right needle. They had some material and the material wasn't working. So they just went to a regular department store and went to like the sewing department that they had there and fabric. And while they're walking around, she found another fabric that kind of looked metallic, but they thought, well, if we put this in black and white, it'll look right.
Yeah, it'll be black and white anyway. So
Right.
how will it look on camera?
Yeah, that's the whole thing was, how is this going to look on camera? And then she said, well, I don't know how to do like a pattern. And then that's where Spiros is like, luckily for me, in the 70s, my parents owned a dressmaking shop, and I spent my Saturdays helping my mom cut out patterns for things. So again, this idea of everybody has a skill they bring to the table. So they I think he said they made 5 versions of these suits from scratch. So you got that going on. They're making the costumes. And then the reason it's filmed in such a way where you only see one side is he drew a diagram. It's because there's only 2 walls and a floor. They built a false floor and 2 walls. It is just the corner of a room.
So it's not like there's not a full fake alien. It's that they don't have the wall on this side.
Yes. and so like you see that guy looking through the glass window. That's not another room. That is like, this fake set is inside of a living room. It's actually built inside of, I think, John Humphrey's or Spiros' sister's flat in London.
It's built inside, just
built inside of somebody's
bedroom.
Yeah, and so the story is that her whole flat was being renovated, so they knew it was empty. So they used one of the rooms to film this.
Nice.
And so they built this little thing.
You'd think if you're putting all this effort into the fake alien that you could just put up some plywood or something.
Well, they did.
But for another wall, just so that you're not as because boy, now you as a cameraman you have to be very careful not to go too far in any direction.
And then as far as film stock, he actually so first they filmed it on regular video. They just filmed it on regular video.
Oh.
Then
I figured they had to get one of these.
They filmed it on video, and then they transferred that video onto Betamax tape, which they then digitized and used a commercially available software that existed at the time. He tells what the software is, and it checks out. It tracks. They then make it artificially a little bit grainier and do some color saturation, and then they put it on actual film stock. He took a camera. He had the camera that was supposed to be the camera used. He actually sourced one, and he's like, well, I can't go get Kodak film. So he went to Fujifilm.
Oh,
he went to and he said, hey, what do you guys have that will work in this camera? And they found something and they gave it to him. And then they transferred what they had done on the computer and everything to that film stock. But how did they get the Kodak thing to line up? Yes?
Well, I was about to say, how did they go from digital back to film? Did they just project it onto a wall and then film it
this
with
is where the
camera?
conspiracy gets deeper.
Okay.
It was done by a commercial outfit. They paid the guy for his silence.
That's ballsy, because you think that would be the closest link where that guy might blab.
Any time where there could have been somebody who would talk, they paid them and said, hey, we'll also give you more money later. So I think he alleges that the person who did the transfer was paid £1 million.
That's crazy.
To keep his silence. And they said, yeah, but if you if you spill this and blow this, like, we're coming after you. Like, they had contracts signed up and shit.
You got thugs that are gonna come get you.
Like, they are really so then so he gets the Fujifilm and they transfer onto that. But that Kodak guy looked at it and said, hey, these things match up. Well, that's when remember we talked about how Ray was looking for vintage film to use? Well, these guys went and got actual vintage film that was from like the 40s.
Oh, wow.
And then they cut the gear things on the side, and then they spliced the other footage onto it. So they altered it to be on like, so the film stock they transferred it to was circa 1980. That's like the oldest he could find. But then they put it with actual stuff from the 40s from home movies.
Wow.
And I think he actually found footage shot in Roswell, New Mexico, so that he could like have some B-roll on there, because there's stuff we don't see in the special too.
So he took it from this newer film and transferred it on to old film.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now
That's amazing.
Now I said they built 2 dummies, right? Now that's because they had to film it twice. The first time they filmed it, it did not look right. It just thought, yeah, this is not great. So we got to do it again. And so the second dummy was built for the second shoot. And in this case, John Humphreys actually took a cast of his 7-year-old son.
Oh, no kidding.
Like cast his body, and then used...
They give him a pot belly?
Yeah, and then used clay over that to build, and then the limbs.
His son did not look like an alien.
No.
Good, okay.
And then, then it's silicone.
It looks great.
Yeah, no,
I
it
mean,
looks amazing.
obviously it's on black and white grainy film, but even the special effects people in that Factor Fiction thing were going like, skin is hard. They nailed it.
To get the surgical tools, that just happened to be a happy accident where like they realized they had to research stuff, so they knew how to like make it look somewhat passable. So if I read the story correctly, it's hard to read this interview because it's like a phone interview, but he's also just being kind of very candid the way he's telling it. So there's a lot of details and stuff that gets thrown in. So his assistant / girlfriend, who they give the pseudonym Michelle to protect her identity, she's reading a book about like autopsies and medical practices from like it's like a medical text, and somebody sees her reading it and strikes up a conversation with her.
Oh.
And she says, "Oh yeah, well I'm actually doing this like project." Well, she says, I'm researching for like school.
Nice.
Do you have anything that I could like buy? And he's like, well, I don't, but my father used to do autopsies and mortician stuff, so you can borrow all of his old tools.
Perfect. Yes.
The hardest thing to source was the metal tray, because
I use one of those for cooking, but I guess my tray looks a little different.
Yeah.
People who know what they're doing would be like, those rims are wrong.
well, exactly.
Yeah.
And they couldn't find anything in England, because in England in the 40s, they were using marble slabs for autopsies.
Oh, right.
And so, yeah, Spyros just manufactured this. He made the thing. He got metals, and they just made...
But he knew what it was supposed to look like enough to be able to recreate it.
Yes, this was not just some like... People say, oh, how could you hoax that? It's because they
really carefully
took a lot of time, greased the right palms to buy silence. And so hold on, I gotta get back to my notes. There's just so many like tiny things that had to go right. Oh, so remember how I said that his sister's flat was being renovated?
Yeah.
So after they filmed the first one, and they kind of realized like this isn't great, we're gonna have to go back to the drawing board. They just left everything in the set and locked up and left the house for the night.
Oh, okay.
Somebody broke in, right? So they came back and found that somebody broke in. So imagine that you're somebody breaking into a house and you're going through this like...
just a normal flat.
That's being renovated. So you're like, okay, maybe I could steal some power tools. Maybe there's some valuables. And then you open a door and there appears to be a bloody cut up corpse on a slab. You get the fuck out, right?
Yeah.
At this point, they figure... jig's up. This guy, whoever broke in here, is going to tell the police that there's like something horrible going on here and somebody's being cut up, right?
Right.
And so they wait and they don't hear anything. And finally, like, you know what? They're probably just, they're not going to say what they saw. This isn't, and they figure, you know, we just have to press forward. We just got to risk it. And so they go through with the second film shoot. This is the one that actually gets transferred.
Okay.
The first one, they looked at the dailies, as you would call it, and they're like, yeah, this is no good. And then what do they do with the alien cadavers after? They cut them up and they disposed of them in trash cans all over London like you would with a body.
Yeah, because you don't want evidence later on.
Yeah.
And it's like made out of actual meat, so you can't just like throw it in the
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
Throw it in the Thames.
Now, Spiros' character, he's not in the Warner Brothers film. I guess Ray contacted him and asked him to do it, and he said no because he felt that making a comedy film about it would cheapen it, because he felt that they only did this to honor the fact that there was the original footage, right? Because he still maintains that there was a real thing.
It's got to be a tribute and
Yeah.
make it have the right tone.
Now, there were also
Yeah.
other things that did not show up in the special, but I think they are in the 17 minutes, because they made other props, including fake pieces of the flying saucer.
They show that a little bit in Fact or Fiction, but I went through the original
Yeah.
footage, and the last 5 minutes or so are showing like the hand pads
Yeah,
that the
like
aliens
control
would use
patterns.
with the extra finger,
Yeah.
and it's like, this is advanced. And,
And all of that-
they interview a guy in Fact or Fiction who was like working on his own version. He's like, they were light years ahead of what we're only just starting.
So Spiros made those props, and he concocted his own like alien writing system of glyphs.
Right, because there's writing.
And he said he combined Greek, which he knew through his own Greek heritage, with some Egyptian hieroglyphics. You know, he made a code, and he claims that a few people actually have deciphered it.
There's not very many glyphs. I don't even know where you'd begin.
It's some kind of fun little message. I don't know. He didn't say what it actually was. Or if he
Interesting.
did, I missed that part. But yeah, he was disappointed by the movie that came out, because they took what would have been his role and they gave it to a Turkish kebab shop owner who shoots film weddings on weekends. So kind of like, he's like, no, I'm a professional filmmaker, right? But anyway, so that he finally dropped the ball in 2017 is where he revealed all that. So the final verdict. Hoax? Yes.
Yes.
Was there ever any real footage? I don't believe there was. Now, Spiros and Ray both said that in the one that we saw, the release footage, there are stills, or there are segments that are the real thing,
That's
right?
what you wonder, yeah.
Now,
Which
but he
did
wouldn't
say? He
but he
didn't
well,
say.
I found this website that goes frame by frame through the film. That's actually how I found this interview. The guy who put together
Wow.
this website that goes through all the evidence, he did the interview where I got all that information from, and but he also believes that it's real. So he tries to pinpoint when the prop looks different, or there's inconsistencies in how the blood is running
Did
down
he
the side of
come with conclusions? Did he?
He did. He like identified certain things, but this is based on the idea that none of the original footage they shot the first time was usable. Spiros claims that we didn't use any of that footage, but I think they did. And then that's why there's discrepancies in the prop. But he tries to say that is an added layer of quote unquote authenticity to make people question, oh, when am I looking at the supposed real footage and when am I looking at the faked footage?
So
really, it's all fake.
So, but his claim is that he actually switched things out to be not consistent, just to make people.
No. The thing is, he says they shot it the one time.
Right.
None of that footage he claims was usable.
Right.
I'm saying he did use it, because the other part of his story and Ray's story
Yeah.
is that there is real footage mixed in with the fake.
Right. Okay.
I'm saying that anything that people point to and say, oh, well, that must be the real footage because the alien looks different,
It's just the first. It was the first shoot.
it's from the first shoot.
Got it.
So
that
him,
makes perfect
and
sense.
him claiming
yeah.
that he didn't use the shoot is to make this smoke screen and off, and make it like, oh,
Yeah.
maybe that's the real footage, but really it's all fucking fake.
Okay, I think
Still,
I agree with you.
My hat is off to them. That is one hell of a hoax, because again, you have a small crew that knows what the fuck they're doing, did research, and
Incredibly thorough.
thorough.
Yeah.
And he also said, like, the clock, he found one that was from 1947. He's like, but no, it needs to be from 1945, because they wouldn't have built this place.
Why would they buy a brand new clock?
Exactly.
It's like a movie that is a period piece taking place in like 1955.
And I think
you don't have every car be of 1955. It's that or earlier.
And the amount of research that they were doing is also, this is before the internet. So there were a few things that were kind of trip ups. For example, in 1998, Ray shared a picture of supposedly the film canisters, and it said U.S. Air Force on it, but the U.S. Air Force didn't exist yet.
Ooh.
So there's a discrepancy there. So there are tiny things that you couldn't account for because there's only so much research you could do in 1993 through 95, with the materials available. There wasn't the internet like we have now. So all this is to say, when you see a video on YouTube that purports to show something supernatural or paranormal, and you think, there's no way they could fake this because it would take too much time and effort. It'd be too difficult. Yeah, it's fucking hard. But if you're really committed, you take the steps because you want it to look real.
There's a logical jump there. There's no way this could be fake because it would be too hard to fake. Not impossible to fake. It should be really hard, so it's probably real. It's like,
it's more effort.
Somebody just put a lot of effort into it.
It's more effort than I'm willing to put into it. It's like, yeah, but you're not a professional filmmaker with access to special effects and film studios. And
some people are really willing to put in the hours.
Yeah, and I mean, the money they made off of it made it worth it.
Sure.
In fact, in the Fact or Fiction special, somebody even throws out, because they're like, well, why would he fake it? And he's like, well, he already got paid. You guys paid him for this footage. You already gave him money.
There's a good reason to want to do that.
Yeah, there's about, several million reasons.
This might be the one instance so far, because we've looked at a lot of fake, people, charlatans in this show. This is one where I'm kind of rooting for them. They put a lot of effort into it. They tricked everybody.
Yeah.
And they made a lot of money. Nobody really got hurt except for,
well,
I don't know, were there any victims here?
Well, so there were a lot of people who are true believers who used this event to back up their own conspiracy theories. It might have actually driven wedges between people who probably, if you think the QAnon thing is divided families, people who went off to chase UFOs, that was a real thing that happened.
Yeah, that's true.
Spiros himself actually does regret it. He says because he regrets that he never told his own father that he had done this.
Wow, really?
He said because his father was a true believer.
Oh, man.
And he said that he never had any secrets between his dad, and that his dad died with him having this lie that he lied to his dad weighs very heavy on him. Yeah. But he is also still insistent that there was real alien footage. I don't think there ever was.
I don't think it would weigh that heavy on him.
Yeah.
If that was the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's been a little too honest there.
So, yeah. So, why did they fake it? Because it was funny, man. They're like
gonna
trolls.
make some money.
And money.
Yeah.
Now, I
it's
think
a good one. They did a good job.
We're going to pivot to Garth's Corner.
Welcome to my corner. This is Garth's Corner. I found an alien creeping around our back door. You know that we've seen him hovering, sealing doors, and buses the size of balloons. I think we shot them down a little too soon, but we've got a body. We've got an alien body here. What are we gonna do with the body? We'll call Alicia Overton. She's got the scalpel and she's ready to start. Oh, call Alicia Overton. She'll tear your alien cadaver apart. But where will she set up? She needs a clean room. It's Garth's Corner, and it's an alien tomb. All right, welcome to Garth's Corner. Here in my corner, I have a laptop. This is going to be a very quick one. I'm just doing, alien autopsy in pop culture.
And I already kind of spoiled some of them. I'm sorry.
It's all right. No worries. Let me turn this off. Doop-a-doop-a-doo. Okay. There actually weren't all that many. Usually I find laundry lists. There's just a few here. So, first one off, the British comedy film depicting the events, Alien Autopsy, 2006. We've talked about that quite a bit.
Go watch it. It's on YouTube for free with ads.
It looks pretty good, yeah.
I enjoyed it.
There is an episode of The X-Files in the third season. It's episode 9 called Nessie? Not Loch Ness Monster Nessie, but it's called Nessie, and it's about so in the episode, Mulder and Scully investigate an alien autopsy that Mulder believes is real. The investigation uncovers a Japanese involvement and sees Mulder smuggle himself onto a secret cargo train. This actually became a two-parter, and it was like a big.
Yes,
it contributed to the lore of the whole show.
do. Yeah, I think there's one where he actually finds somebody, or there's somebody who is in an alien costume that was trying to hoax for the government, but got abducted themselves by
funny.
aliens. Yeah.
That might have been that one. I don't know. I think I might have seen that episode when it came out, but it's been so long I don't remember. The second part of the episode, part 2, was called 731. I think that's the name of the train car he was on. And of course, one of the greatest homages to the alien autopsy would have come out 2 years later with the masterpiece Independence Day. We have Brent Spiner, Data.
There's the other cyborg piece we were missing.
We
had Riker,
Data, who played a cyborg.
Yeah, we had Riker presenting you the hoax
That's
to
right.
begin with, and then we had Bishop from Alien, another cyborg, telling you no. But in between those two, we had Brent Spiner, aka Commander Data,
Playing
Lieutenant
the
Commander Data,
fantastic, crazy mad scientist
Who's
in Area 51.
in Area 51 doing an alien autopsy.
And he's like so excited.
Bader Meinhof, man.
Yeah, I love it. But yeah, he does a great job.
You know who else is in that scene, real quick? Well, that also Independence Day. Bill Pullman, who was in the alien
president.
autopsy, and then unrelated but another Fox property. One of the Secret Service guys who like pumps bullets into the alien he's Jane from Firefly.
With the hat.
Yes.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I remember.
Because
He
was a character.
He'd
He'd been in movies and films since the early
Oh
'80s.
my gosh.
Also, a secretly trash being person. I mean, he's got some unfortunate. Anyway.
Good actor.
Yes.
All right, so moving on to the Futurama episode.
Yes.
Probably my favorite. If I had to pick the best Futurama episode, it would be Roswell That Ends Well,
a good
and it'd be in the top 5 anyway. and they go back in time and they do an autopsy on Zoidberg.
Yeah.
That's great.
And
he's like eating the watch, or no, what was he? He eats
something. The guy is like speaking into a microphone.
the same deviled egg.
Yeah. Stomach contents, 1 deviled egg, and Zoidberg goes, "Woo!" and he leans over and eats it off the tray.
Deviled egg. The same deviled egg.
He did do the nasty and the pasty.
That's right. That past nastification made him impervious to the.
I solved that riddle though, because the question is, people are like, "Well, how does the genetics work there?" Right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So if Fry is literally genetically his own grandpa,
Yes.
how would that work? Yeah.
Okay,
Who
so the
invented rock and roll? Was
Well,
it Marty
well,
McFly?
no. Well,
or
here's the
was-
deal: is
okay.
that his supposed first grandfather was Eunice
Right.
Fry.
Right.
Right. Well, no, he doesn't say Fry. They never say his last name. I think they just call him Eunice.
Okay.
Right. And he's got orange hair in the distinctive Fry.
Yeah, he looks like
right?
he'd be related to Fry.
But Fry's mom has that same hair. He gets his orange hair from his mom. In the episode Luck of the Fryish, his dad says, "Now Yancey, your name's Yancey, just like my father, and you're a great." So it's like Eunice is not his maternal grandfather. He is his he's not his paternal. He's his maternal grandfather.
right,
Which
okay.
means that he still gets his MT DNA from his mother, who got it from her mother. So Fry's DNA is there, but it's not his it's not his Y chromosome. It's on his mother's line. And as we know, if you know how you get your DNA, you get your MT DNA from your mother, but the other line comes from your father. So he is his maternal grandfather. There's some that's fudging the things, because there's some other stuff I think that just is supposed to counter-indicate that, but that is my solution.
I'm convinced. That's great. Yeah, no, I
He's
had
his
not
own,
thought
he's
about
his
that well,
maternal
but
grandfather.
That is logically consistent as far as I can tell from what I followed there.
Yeah.
Very
Okay.
good. There was Alien Autopsy 1997. This is the last thing in Garth's corner.
Oh.
And this is a game that I believe you have played.
Yes, it is.
I looked it up.
Game.
There's no official website for it. It's from so long ago.
There's multiple versions.
Oh, okay. So, according to the website, it was remove alien body parts before they remove yours in this silly take on a classic. Like, I guess it's take on Operation.
So the one I played in '97 is an exact. It's just the Operation game, except instead of that guy, it is an alien. and so you touch the sides and it buzzes. Now, there's another version you can find the parts to on eBay, where instead of just a cardboard flat thing, it's an actual like rubber alien, and you have to like fish around. You don't get to see. You stick your tweezers and you have to fish around and try to pull out the right parts.
Oh, that's so cool.
Right, yeah.
I wanna get
And
that.
so you can buy the components on eBay. They go for anywhere from like $30 to like $90.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, once we get enough Patreon people,
Unboxing and play a game of Alien Autopsy.
the little excerpt explaining what it is says, a lifeless alien lies upon the examination table as players race to complete successful autopsies. An unsteady hand results in a reawakening scream and flashing eyes. The player who collects the most alien body parts wins. Requires 2 AA batteries, not included.
Not included. Yeah, I was staying the night at my best friend Alex's house at the time, and it was like a rainy weekend, so we couldn't go out and play. And so his mom like made us this deal where she's like, okay, if you guys like behave yourselves and don't make a big deal, we'll go to the mall and I'll like buy you guys some kind of game. And so we went to the game store in the mall, at a mall that I had never been to.
Oh.
I'd never been to Valley Fair. I only
Wow.
went to the much smaller Capitola Mall.
That's the mall I always went to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I never went to Valley Fair. As a
Yeah,
kid.
and it was
Maybe
like this
once,
mall
but I
is
don't
like
remember.
4 times the size of the mall that I was used to. It had 2 stories to it. And it went-
Escalators.
yeah, and it was a rainy day, so I remember sitting in the back of his mom's car and trying not to get car sick going down Highway 17 from the mountains in the rain. And then we went to this mall that culture shocked me, and we got Alien Autopsy,
Nice.
and we went back and played it, and we're disappointed,
Oh.
to say the least.
If only you'd gotten that 3D one where you have
Yeah,
to fish in there.
yeah.
Sprung for the deluxe package. Well,
Well-
that is the end of Guard's Corner, everybody.
That is, are we having an alien fight?
Peace. Peace.
Yes. Aliens.
So, we have some patrons.
Yes, this was
to,
made possible by our Monster Squadron, well, all of our patrons, but we want to specifically shout out the Monster Squadron patron producers. And that would be Travis Alexander, the Bi Barbarian, Rachel Krieger, Tom Dahl, who's new, Justin Duckham, Kelly Flynn, Gunnar Franks, Carla Harrington, Havelock, New Jared, Brian Lamb, Alicia Overton, Jordan Ramey, and Blue Roan.
Well done.
Yes.
All right.
And also, we still have the least haunted post office box. P.O. Box 22, Redwood Estates, California, 95044 if you want to send us some stuff. As you can see, we're now set up to do some more video, so we could do unboxing videos now.
Oh, can you imagine?
Send us some cursed and haunted objects. And then we've got, if you got any thing you could send to leasthauntedpodcast@gmail.com, and you can join our Discord. That's where we got our Garth's moniker for this episode. New one every episode. Those are being created by our listeners on Discord. This week's
That was a great one.
that comes from Ken with 2 N's.
Thank you, Ken, with 2 N's.
Let's see what else. Anything else that I'm forgetting? We've got a secret project coming up.
Yes.
I mean,
Secret project
Secret
coming up.
project. If you want to get in on that,
But when this releases, we'll be doing the project a couple days later.
yes.
Yeah.
So if you want to throw some extra support our way, reach
Contact
out to
us.
us. Contact us either at the leasthauntedpodcast@gmail.com, like I mentioned earlier, or through our new production company, Sequoidea@gmail.com. That's SEQUOIDEA @gmail.com.
Well, I think with that, it's time to say goodnight and end with our normal sign-off. Are
So,
you consenting to this?
so remember, until next time, the only thing that's haunted
Is you.
Woo! Goodbye, everybody.
Hey, goodbye.
Is there a cameraman? Does he really exist? Did he exist? And can I find him?
The Least Haunted podcast is recorded before a dead studio audience and is a presentation of Sequoia Productions, LLC.